So my name is Jeremy Zeiss, and I'm one of the engineers here at Allen Block. And today we're going to be going through 3D modeling and how it can help set you apart from competition in your area and help improve your sales in your market. So, getting started, we're going to talk about some reasons that 3D modeling has become such a big deal in our industry today. The first of those is going to be BIM. Now, BIM stands for Building Information Modeling, and basically what that means is that uh, designers are now using 3D models to, uh, I guess, put together projects before the actual construction so that they can avoid any future changes to projects or address problems earlier on. So, for example, that could be like in a housing situation, they might insert electrical components into a 3D model of a house to see if any wiring, I guess, interferes with piping or plumbing or anything like that. In a retaining wall situation, it would be like if the designer decided to create a 3D model of the whole project and they could see if the reinforcement of the retaining wall, the geogrid reinforcement, interacts with any sewage or electrical lines or gas pipes, anything like that. So it's an easy way to use 3D modeling to address issues before they come up on site. The other big push that's made 3D modeling so important in our industry is from the media and TV especially. Now, stations like the Do It Yourself Network and Home and Garden TV network both are very had a big impact on what's expected when customers commit to a project. So in on both of those networks, there's several TV shows where huge projects are made, and the hosts of the TV shows often will use 3D models to give the customers a good idea of what they're going to get. And once that started getting put on TV, it became such an important thing for customers. The fact that they would be able to see what they're going to get before they actually commit to it. That way they can see how something looks and say, hey, you know what, I don't like the way that looks too much. Is there a way to change it? Or more often than not, they see it and they think, wow, that looks amazing. Is that something that I can get? Or I want that right now. So like I said, these TV stations really made it so customers are now expecting more from you. Now, what we've done here at Allen Block is we've made some tools that we can use, homeowners or you guys, so that we can quickly design projects that we can eventually create 3D models from. And the first way to create some walls is through our AB Walls our AB retaining wall app. Now, the AB retaining wall app is used for several different things, but overall we use it for walls that are under 6 feet in height. Uh, and what it's going to allow you to do is create a plan view, an elevation view, and a section view of your wall. So you'll design for all of those parameters, and then it's going to spit back to you a full material estimate with quantities of block and other things. And it's also going to give you a Ruby script that we can use to open up inside of our extension in SketchUp to easily create a 3D model of that wall that you just designed. Now, all of the outputs that you're going to get from this app are going to be very professional. We'll see them at the end of this presentation. But really, it's just a very quick way to design a wall under 6 feet that you can quickly show a customer what they're going to get before they commit to it. Now, the other app that we have is our Courtyard app, and it's very similar to our retaining wall app, except instead of designing a retaining wall, it's for designing courtyard walls or patio walls with our Courtyard product. Like you can see in this picture below, you'll be able to create a four-sided patio with openings at various points in it, and you can change different end components of the wall. And just like the retaining wall app, you're going to get a full material estimate as well as that Ruby script that we can use to open up in our SketchUp extension. And like I've been saying, I keep talking about this thing called SketchUp. SketchUp is a 3D modeling software that we decided to use uh, for our 3D modeling tool. And there's a few reasons that we chose to use SketchUp. Now, the first is that SketchUp has a free version that's technically a hobbyist version, and what that'll allow you to do is download that free version, and then you can test out our extension and see if that's something that would be really valuable to you. So there's no initial cost on this. Now, some other reasons that we decided to use SketchUp is because they have something called a 3D warehouse. And in that 3D warehouse, it's basically a library of different models that others have created that are free for you to use. So, in this model in the back here, all of these trees, all of this house here, these bushes down here are all things that others have created in the past and made available to all users of SketchUp to use. So it's a convenient place for us to be able to quickly drop in work that other people have done so we don't have to spend as much time on it. Another thing, probably arguably the most important reason of why we ended up using SketchUp, is this extension warehouse. Now, our 3D modeling tool that we use is technically an extension inside of SketchUp. So it's almost like a tool inside of SketchUp that you can download. What we use is um, those apps that I described earlier will give you back a Ruby script, and that Ruby script can be opened inside of our extension. And then also with SketchUp, you're going to have lots of very professional exports. You can export to CAD, you can export to Blender, or to other 3D modeling softwares, or to PDF. So it's really kind of endless in what you can provide to customers. Now this is what our extension looks like in SketchUp. Um, I'll talk about this a little later when we actually go through this. I'll show you guys a walkthrough of our different tools and how to use them in SketchUp with our extension. But basically what you're seeing here is inside of each of these, anytime you open up our extension, it's going to ask you for what type of block you want to use, the collection, and also the color. And when you choose your file that you get back from our apps, you're going to be able to quickly create that 3D model in a matter of just a few clicks, fully textured, all of that from the options that you chose. Now, a big thing about this is that while this is kind of an example of what your wall might look like when it comes out of SketchUp, it's very easy to turn something like this, where there's not a lot of detail around it, into something like this, where we had a wall here, and a wall here that we all brought into the same model. And then we decided to add some things like driveways or trees or cars, houses. Like I said before, the houses, the trees, the cars, those are all things that are already in SketchUp's 3D warehouse. So we didn't have to model them. We basically just dropped them into our model. And then we decided to make some things like the sidewalk and the driveway to work with our wall. And like you can see here, a good thing to do for customers, like I said before, this visualization is something that's so important to customers nowadays. And an awesome thing that you can do is when you're showing these projects to customers, get them to visualize actually standing in this scene. So as you can see, we've got kind of a low view here of this wall. It's almost like the customer that you're showing this picture to is maybe standing in the street or looking from the other side of the street at this wall with their house in the background. So it's something that they can really imagine themselves standing in and say, hey, I can imagine this on my street, or I can see this being my house. How is this something I can get? And that's how it leads to more sales and more commitments to jobs. So that was our retaining wall app that does retaining walls. And then this is something like our courtyard will give back. You'll see we've got a post and we've got our outline of our courtyard patio. And then, so that's what the app gives us back. But then you can see that it's easy to add in grilling stations and flowers and maybe a bar or table and chairs. We can backdrop it on a house to make it look very professional. So um, I'll show you how you can add things into our SketchUp extension and all of that in just a little bit. But this is just a good idea of what customers or what you'd be able to show customers once you get familiar with SketchUp in our extension. Here's we used it for a bridge abutment. Some cool ideas there. Now, what our main goal here at Allen Block was to do is we wanted to have all of our tools that customers are already use. So our AB Walls 3D is used by engineers for designing retaining walls. And then like I was talking about before, our courtyard and retaining wall apps are used to give good estimates and show customers what they might get, give them a professional output in PDF form. And so a lot of our users or a lot of our customers already use these amazing free tools, and we wanted to be able to incorporate each of them into SketchUp and be able to create 3D models from all of them. Just recently, our Courtyard app was released, and that was the third of our three. So now we have all of our tools successfully creating 3D models in SketchUp. And like I was saying before, the biggest things here is that we want our customers to be able to visualize themselves in these scenes. Um, so we want them in views where a customer can see or can imagine standing there on their patio, or maybe can imagine a summer night sitting outside at this table with their family eating dinner, maybe having some friends over and going over to the fireplace and roasting some marshmallows for s'mores, things like that. Um, Here's a good example of where you can have a customer imagine themselves coming out of their backyard down into this patio and walking over to their flowers, or maybe going over here to grill or serve some drinks at the bar, things like that. So we really just want to try to get customers to imagine themselves in there. Um, Show diagrams like these TV networks are to get customers not just imagining themselves in there, but having something that seems real already, or something that is a lot more descriptive than words. Like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and if you can show one of these models, it really is valuable to them. Here's a good example of where we put a nice little backdrop on the model, so it looks like there's a full scene there. You can see it's almost like a restaurant might use this to maybe serve some guests some food over here, or have a lounge area over in the corner, anything like that. So I guess the best way to do this, or to get our extension and start using it, is to first download SketchUp. And this model, or SketchUp, can be downloaded from this link right here. I will provide a sheet that explains all of the install instructions for both SketchUp and our extension. I'll provide that in a email that I send out following this presentation. Probably early tomorrow you would get it. But basically, what you want to do is download this SketchUp Make 2017. That's that hobbyist version that I was talking about, and that'll allow you to install SketchUp for free and use it to see if that's something you want to do or something that's worth you using. Like I said before, we've got a reference guide that I'll attach in an email that tells you the instructions on how to install SketchUp and our extension, and a few some information about how to use our extension. But obviously, if you've never used SketchUp, it might have a little learning curve to it. And the best way to learn more about SketchUp is literally to just Google or YouTube SketchUp tutorial, and there'll be tons and tons of tutorial series on how to learn SketchUp very quickly. They'll start with the very basics that you would need to show a customer a project, and they can get up to very advanced lessons on how to modify specific elements of your project and things like that. So it is very valuable for you to learn that so that you can show customers smoothly what their wall will look like or what their patio will look like. I'm not going to get into the extension um, just because when you install that, you'll see. But basically, in their extension warehouse, if you search Allen Block, you'll find our extension. And well, this was actually this picture was taken a while ago when pretty soon after we just introduced the 3D modeling tool. Now, if you would believe, we're at over 1,000 more users than this right now. I think we're around 1,300 users of this 3D modeling tool that we have. Um, Here are the instructions of what each of our buttons in our extension does. I'm not going to go over that too much because I want to show you that at the end of this meeting. But an important thing, though, is where to install our Courtyard app and retaining wall app that we talked about earlier. And the best place to do that is on the Allen Block website. When you go to our home screen at allenblock.com, you should see an option that says estimating tools or things like that. And that's where you're going to go to get to this screen, where you would click one of these colored boxes, and that would bring you to a link to install either the Courtyard or retaining wall app. And so once you have those apps, we can go ahead and see it in action, and that's what we're going to do right now. So when we come out of here, we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and start with our retaining wall app. When you install it, it'll look something like this. You can open it up, and once you're inside of the retaining wall app, we're going to go ahead and click this create your own wall. And now you can see right away, we've got a grid that's labeled off in feet. So these numbers up here are feet. You can always change that to metric with this ruler button, but it's defaulted out to feet. And what we're going to do here on this first step is draw the bird's eye view of our wall. So we're basically going to click a few points. I'm just going to make a big zigzag wall. And so I'm saying right here, I want this, if I'm looking down at a plan view or a bird's eye view of my wall, I want it to come across and zigzag around. Now, once I have my wall design that I like, I'm going to go ahead and click next. And it's going to ask me to choose the elevation or block courses at each of those points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to adjust my top or bottom of wall. So I want maybe my top of wall starting off at 4 courses. Maybe that's fine. So I'll move to my second course or my second point where I'll say, I want that to be 7 courses tall. And I can go to my third point and say, I want that to be 7 courses tall too. And then my last point, I'm going to keep that at 4 courses. And so once I've decided on my elevations for my different points, I'm going to go ahead and close this and go to the next part where I choose my above wall considerations. And I'm going to choose just the level wall above for this example. Choose next. I'm going to choose my soil information. And then it's going to show me my wall that it's designing. You'll notice that it changes these mitered corners to curves. And the reason for that is because this tool is something that's available to homeowners as well. And we really want to limit the amount of work that a homeowner would have to do. So by eliminating these mitered corners and switching to curves, we eliminate the need to cut block, and we eliminate that kind of weak point in the wall. So that's why we have it as a curve. So if this is what we want our wall to look like, we go ahead and click the green button, and then we go ahead and type in our email address and our zip code. And then we want to make sure that we have this send me a SketchUp file of my project checked. And if that is checked, we can go ahead and click free design packet. And it's going to give us a thank you. And eventually we're going to get 2 emails back. One of the emails is going to include I wouldn't click on the example here, but it's going to include a PDF kind of output of what we just designed. So like I said, this is just an example one of what it'll look like. So it's not going to look exactly the same as ours will, but you can see it's going to start off and show you the plan view, that bird's eye view of our wall. It's going to show you our panel view, so our front view, where it shows our GeoGrid locations in each section. It's going to show us our section views, our cross sections, where it's going to show our GeoGrid locations. And then it's going to show us our block quantity estimate as well as our other materials needed for this wall. And it's going to do that for each collection. So you can see this is our estimate if we were going to use our AB Classic block. And this is going to be our estimate if we're going to use our AB Ashlar pattern. And basically it does that with each of the collections. But yeah, so that's one of the emails you'll get will include this. The other email that we just got back is going to be this email that includes this RB script or Ruby script. And what we're going to do with that is right away we're just going to go ahead and save as, and I'm going to save that to my computer. So I go ahead and click save, and then we can open up SketchUp. And inside of SketchUp, as soon as it opens, we're going to see this little person. And what we can do is go ahead and highlight him and delete him. And then we're going to want to go to our extension tab and our Allen Block 3D modeling tools. Now this will appear after you install the extension from SketchUp's 3D extension warehouse, which that SketchUp shortcuts, I guess, sheet of paper will have that I send out to you later. It'll show you how to do that. But once we have our extension here, we're going to go ahead and click this folder button, and that's going to give us the option to choose what type of block we want to use. I'm going to go ahead and use our AB collection. We'll do Classic, and we'll go ahead and maybe Brown Blend. And then once we have our product selected that we want to use, we'll go ahead and click Open File. And from there, we're going to want to choose the file that we just saved, that Ruby script, and we're going to go ahead and click Open. And then we're going to give it just a couple seconds, and then you can see it created our wall in 3D. So you can see we've got cross sections here, and then we've also got our fully textured wall. And you can see in the wall it's also got the cap above it, and everything is textured. So that's the retaining wall app. I'll show you a little bit on how you can modify that and make that look a little more professional in a bit. But right now I'm just going to move it to the side and show you how to use our Courtyard app. So our Courtyard app that I was talking about is going to look very similar. We're going to go ahead and click Create Your Own Patio. And I'm going to make mine a little bigger. It's the same thing where it's got feet on each side. So I'm basically saying right here, my patio is going to be around 35 feet by 18 feet or something like that. So I go ahead and click the arrow once I'm satisfied with that size. I'm going to go ahead and choose the walls or the sides that I want patio walls to be on. And then I'm going to choose openings that I want to have for each wall. So maybe I want to have openings in all of these places. Once I have that, I can go ahead and click this green arrow, and that's going to ask us to choose our components at each of these blue dots. So I'm going to say right here, maybe I want, in this opening, I want this step down type thing for our Courtyard product. Maybe on this corner, I want a corner. And I'll keep the posts here for this opening. Maybe another corner. Maybe a fireplace in the middle of this wall. Maybe just a standard split end for this opening. And then maybe a curve here. And so what I'm doing here is just clicking through on this, and it's cycling through each of the options. But once I have all of my components chosen that I want, we're going to go ahead to the next screen, and we're going to choose how high we want our wall and components to be. So right now we have our wall set to a default of 18 inches. We'll go ahead and keep that. And we've got our posts and fireplaces set to a height of 30 inches. So we'll go ahead and keep that as well. So once you've decided on the heights of your wall, or your patio wall, we'll go ahead and click this forward. And it's going to give us a brief quantity estimate right here. And we click forward again, and we're going to do the same thing where we type in our email and our postal code. And we're going to make sure we have that Send SketchUp file selected. We're going to go ahead and click Free Design Packet again. We'll get that same redirect to the confirmation that I went through. And then we're going to get two emails again. The first email is going to look something like this, very similar to our retaining wall output that we had for PDF. It's going to have a cover page, a bird's eye view of the wall we designed. Again, this is an example one, so it doesn't look the exact same as ours. It's going to show the different views of the wall. And then it's going to give us our quantity estimate for blocks that we'll need. And then also, that's going to be followed by a few pages of installation tips and tricks and how to build with our Courtyard product. And then some final resources or things to consider as well. So that's going to be the first of the emails, or one of the emails that you get. The other email that you're going to get, it looks like we just got it. So it's a PDF. Is going to have that same another Ruby script in it. This time it's going to say Courtyard in front of it. So we can go ahead and do the same thing where we save that to our computer. And we just go into SketchUp, and we're going to open it up the same way, except this time we're going to make sure we choose our Courtyard collection. I'll do it as a York pattern. And let's keep the brown blend to match our wall. You can always, if you ever want to try a different color, you can always just come back in here and do the exact same thing, but change the block color. So once we're in here, I'm going to go ahead and choose Courtyard product, the one that we just saved. We're going to go ahead and click Open. And again, within just a few seconds, we've got our Courtyard wall, or our Courtyard patio that we just designed. So you can see how this is exactly the same as what we just designed here. We've got our posts over here, we've got our corners, our openings with the steps, our split ends, and our fireplace here. So it is exactly the same. Now, once you have your models in here, a great thing that you can do, or the first step of showing customers a professional 3D model, is to come in here, and you'll want to, in our extension, click this star button. And what the star button is going to do is bring you to our website and bring you to a variety of models from the 3D warehouse. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and add a hydrangea to our model. I go ahead and click this 3D warehouse, and I'm going to go to download and choose 2017 model. When I do that, it's going to download on my computer, and I can just take that download and I can drag it straight into my model, and that's going to place it down in our model. And what I can do is I can copy that through my wall, and now you can see how easy that was to place something in our model. So that's the very basic way of how to add things into it. Obviously, the more you play around with SketchUp, the better you'll get at modifying these and dropping things in to make it look like a real, a real model, or a very realistic depiction of what a customer might get to really sell them on it. So as you can see, that was pretty quick, that we just designed a retaining wall and a Courtyard patio. And this is really something that you can quickly show a customer. So if they tell you what they want, you can right away design this in our tools, quickly create this 3D model, and pop it up in front of them, and they can say, wow, that was quick, and this is exactly what I wanted. Or maybe I want to try it in a different color, or maybe I want to extend it a little longer, anything like that. So it is a great way to really solidify that sale. But overall, I would say, um, I mean, we went through that very quickly. One of the best ways to get started in this and learn how you can show your customers this type of stuff quickly is to go through a tutorial with us here. We offer like 45-minute tutorials that are or they're free. And basically, what we would do is we would take you through each of the tools I went through and through how to install SketchUp. And we'd get that on your computer as well as the tools. And we would go through doing something kind of similar to what I did here, except we would explain it a little more in depth. We would modify it a little more to show how you can uh, create a professional output for your customers, anything like that. So it just gets a little more in depth than what we went through here, and it would be one on one with one of us from our office. And if that's something that is if that's something that you're interested in, you can feel free to just reply to the email that I'll send out after this presentation or tomorrow, and you can say, "Hey, I was just curious about that tutorial and was wondering if there's a time I can set that up." And we would go ahead and get that set up for you to go through that one-on-one free tutorial to get you using this tool efficiently and to increase your sales. But that takes us to the end of the presentation, and hopefully you learned a little bit more about how you can use what Allen Block provides to set yourself apart from other people in your area and really give customers a unique experience when they go to decide on a project that they want. So with that, are there any questions on the presentation? Okay, it doesn't look like there's any questions. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to go through this presentation. I know it's never easy to take away a half an hour of your time even. It's always busy. So if you do have any questions in the future, or if you're interested in that tutorial, feel free to reply to that email that I send out. But other than that, I'll go ahead and end the meeting. And um, like I said before, just give us a call or send us an email if you have any questions. Thank you.